Hey, how's it going? Zach D Productions here, and I am here for my best movies of 2022 list. This will be a top 10. Now, I thought that this year has been a pretty good year for movies, although I would say that 2021 has overall been a better year for movies. I just felt like that there was a lot more that came out in 2021 in comparison to this year, 2022. But 2022 was still overall a pretty good year for movies. There's been some really good movie releases to come out, obviously, and we'll be talking about some of those in this video. And I would say that if you're someone who's passed up all of the 2022 movie releases, I would say give some of these a go for sure. So let's go ahead and start off with what I have at number 10. Number 10, I have Samaritan with, of course, Sylvester Stallone. And I mean, if you like action movies, how could you not like Stallone as an actor and things like that? But now I'm sure that you guys probably understand why that this movie is only at number 10 and not higher on the list. The movie is kind of underwhelming, I'm not going to lie, and that's really my main complaint with it. It is kind of an underwhelming movie. I mean, I would say that it's a good movie, but not a great movie. I knew that if I were to have it on the list, it would be somewhere in the lower half of the list. So I have it at number 10. Basically, the plot surrounds this, I don't know what you want to call him, a retired superhero. I mean, that's basically what he is, played by Sylvester Stallone. And there's this boy who suspects that he's the Samaritan, and of course, he would be correct. So yeah, decent plot and things like that. Now I know that someone has said that this movie probably would have benefited better if it would have came out 20 years ago or something, and yeah, I can kind of see that for sure, but all in all, I thought it was a pretty good movie. You know, again, I like it, but I didn't love it though. I wouldn't really call this one of the more massive movie releases of the year, and you know, that's kind of surprising since, you know, Sylvester Stallone is, you know, one of the main characters, but oh well, pretty good movie still. So Samaritan is at number 10. All right, so at number 9, we have The Black Phone. Definitely a film that surprised me. It's kind of like a horror film. Basically, the story involves, well, this black phone, which, you know, I for some reason didn't expect, but it is what it is. This phone that this boy uses to communicate with others that have been murdered by I guess the crazy guy that's, you know, keeping him hostage and things like that. And, you know, he tries to escape and everything. And, you know, just that whole concept, I mean, it's kind of different, kind of unique. So, you know, the fact that, you know, he can communicate with those that have been taken as well on the phone. And, you know, this is one of the Ethan Hawke films. And, yeah, pretty good film, I'd say. So The Black Phone is at number 9. Okay, so at number 8, we have Everything Everywhere All at Once. Definitely a unique movie. Visually, it's insane to look at. I mean, it definitely is. I mean, just the action sequences and just, you know, visually, the effects and everything. It's really cool to look at for sure. Now, this is sort of like a multiverse film, and by the way, I really do hope that the multiverse subject is not going to be like the next big thing, because that is what it seems like to some extent, you know. It seems like, you know, everything has to be about the multiverse now. Like, I hope that it's not the film trend of the 2020s, you know, the multiverse thing that is, because I think that would get really redundant. I mean, the multiverse thing is still pretty new, and you know, it's already kind of getting old, so there you go. But this movie, for what it is pretty good. You know, I did find some enjoyment out of it. Some things I didn't like about it, but overall, pretty solid movie. So Everything Everywhere All at Once is at number 8. Okay, so at number 7, we got Scream, also known as Scream 5. This was actually the first Scream movie I ever checked out. Now, I know that some people might tell me that I should have started off with one of the classics, you know, the first few, the original trilogy or whatever, but, you know, this is the one that I started out with. Now, I know that they are coming out with a new one. and I will probably check that one out at some point. And of course, I'll check out the classics at some point as well, probably. But yeah, so Scream 5, pretty good movie. There's things that I liked about it, but there are also things that I don't like about it. Now, the things that I do like about this movie is, of course, the twists and turns that it takes, the unexpected surprises, especially, with who's involved, with the killings and stuff, who's behind the ghost face. Is that what it's called? The ghost face or scream face? Whatever it's called. You know what I mean. Just the tricks that whoever's behind that plays, and kind of intriguing, So yeah, kind of an interesting story. Now, the things that I really don't like about it are, I guess, the cheesiness of it, It kind of does have some of those horror cheesiness to it, But, it also has those parts where they're talking about other movies, other horror films, like, oh, hey, it's just like this movie, it's just like that movie. I'm like, why is it so necessary to reference, other movies in this movie? I don't know. Wasn't too thrilled about that. I mean, you can think of that what you want, but I don't know. I found it kind of cliche, kind of cheesy in a way, but oh well. But when you look at this film objectively, I would say it's a pretty good film. So Scream 5 is at number 7. Okay, so at number 6, we have The Northman, which I believe is another Ethan Hawke film. And now, when I first watched this film, I wasn't really sure what to think of it. Like, I had some mixed reviews, or mixed thoughts on it, basically. It's a good movie, it is. I've grown to appreciate it. Now, the reason I say I had some mixed thoughts on it is because, well, I kind of stopped maybe like halfway through or almost halfway through, and then I just came back. I didn't come back to it till like a few days later or something. It is a more dark and, kind of serious film about revenge, and it's more on the serious tone of things. And it takes place in the Dark Ages, and I've never really been crazy about that setting in particular, but it is what it is. I mean, for what the film is, I thought it was pretty good. So yeah, The Northman, visually it looks cool, and I've grown to appreciate it more, and I knew that this film would definitely be on the list, and I'm sure that this film would make a lot of people's lists. So yeah, so The Northman, really good one for sure. Basically, this is basically like this is basically if like Dark Souls or Skyrim had like a movie adaptation or something like that. That's basically the best way to describe it. So yeah, so The Northman, pretty good movie. So that's what's coming in at number 6. Okay, so at number 5, we actually have the only Marvel film on this list, and in my opinion, the best Marvel film of 2022, and that is Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And I would say that this is a good movie. Now, this movie, it did receive mixed reviews, mixed reactions, Some people were not a fan, but I personally was a fan. I like the performances in this movie from, of course, Benedict Cumberbatch, who is Doctor Strange, and you also have Elizabeth Olsen, who plays Scarlet Witch. And I'll tell you what, after seeing her performance in this movie, it makes you appreciate the character Scarlet Witch even more. I know that a lot of people are demanding for a Scarlet Witch solo film and things like that, but yeah. Now, I would say that this movie, it's probably not as good as it was when it first came out, but I would still say that the movie is pretty solid. It is. Visually, it's very cool to look at, and, the effects and everything, and this is a film that is directed by Sam Raimi, who, of course, did the original Spider-Man trilogy with Tobey. And, the fact that he directed this movie, I mean, obviously there were many expectations. The expectations were off the charts. And because I think he directed this movie goes into the sort of horror territory. This is probably the closest MCU movie that's like a horror, And yeah, there's definitely some freaky moments in this movie for sure, and overall I'd say it's a good movie, definitely very solid. So Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is coming in at number 5. Okay, so at number 4, we got Avatar: The Way of Water. This is the second Avatar movie, and it's crazy because it's been years since the original from 2009, and I believe that the reason it took so long to make a sequel was because of some rights that other companies had or something. Like eventually some other company gained the rights to Avatar or something, and that's why for a long time they didn't make a sequel. But regardless, we did get a sequel, and there will be more sequels to this to come in the next few years, which is really crazy to think about. But yeah, I'd say that this is a solid movie. Now Avatar, never really something that I was huge into, but I'm glad that I gave this franchise another chance, because you know what, it is pretty solid. I mean, the Pandora world, I believe it's called, very interesting, and of course visually it's really fascinating to look at and everything, the action and everything. I mean, pretty good follow-up film. So Avatar: The Way of Water is coming in at number 4. Okay, so at number 3, now I know that this is a movie that not many of you have heard of or have checked out. Some people might not even place it this high on the list, especially in the top 3, but this made number 3 for me. So at number 3, I gotta go with Alienoid, which is a Korean film, and I was pleasantly surprised by it. I definitely was. I mean, this film really does show that, there's a lot of talent going on in Korea for sure. But yeah, I really enjoyed the action sequences in this movie, and I believe that there is going to be a second part to this. I don't know if it's going to be a trilogy or if they're just going to do 2 parts to this. But either way, I'm definitely looking forward to the second part to Alienoid. So there you go. Now, again, I know that some of you have probably passed up this film, but I would say check it out. If you like Korean films or just sci-fi action films that are, just visually very cool, pretty action-packed, I would say give this a go, because you know what, this film definitely pleasantly surprised me, and I'm glad to own it on Blu-ray. So Alienoid is coming in at number 3. Okay, so at number 2, now, number 2 and number 1, these films could honestly interchange, go back and forth. For a while, my number 2 was my number 1, but that's kind of changed over time. I've grown to appreciate my number 1 a little bit more. So at number 2, I got to go with The Batman. Now, this film here pleasantly surprised me, and I had very little interest in it when I heard it was coming out and things like that. But I'm really glad I gave it a go, because it is a great movie for sure. This has Robert Pattinson as Batman, and I know that some people are kind of on the fence about him being Batman, especially when the film was coming out and things like that. But you know what? I actually liked Robert Pattinson's portrayal of Batman in this movie. Very solid for sure, really good performance. If you like the more detective side of Batman, I would say definitely give this movie a go. You have the Riddler as the villain in this movie, and this is a superhero film that is more on the dark and serious tone, which is kind of what you always got with Batman, It's not like Marvel where it's like all upbeat and stuff, When it comes to DC versus Marvel, I mean, they're like totally 2 different worlds, But either way, great movie for sure. I mean, it is kind of lengthy, but you really don't feel the runtime. You really don't. It's a great movie, so I knew that this movie would be somewhere in the top 3, and it is definitely top 3 material easily. So, The Batman at number 2. Okay, so at number 1, I'm very surprised that this movie made my number 1. I never thought I would even get into this franchise as a whole, but I have been seeing nothing but praise for this movie. Endless praise. It's played in theaters pretty much all year, even though it's out on Blu-ray and DVD and things like that. Even to this day, it's still in theaters, I believe. So I've been seeing nothing but just endless praise for this movie, and I'm sure a lot of you know what it is at this point. Top Gun Maverick. with, of course, Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise, again, if you like action movies, how could you not like Tom Cruise as an actor? He's probably one of my favorite actors, so yeah, but great movie, really great. I've grown to appreciate it even more. You know, there was a time where The Batman was my number one of the year, but you know what? This has climbed a little bit higher on my list, on my ranking for the best of the year. This movie, I mean, obviously it performed really well, you know, still in the theaters, I believe, and this is a sequel to the original Top Gun, which came out in the 80s, and I mean, I believe that this has been like the longest awaited sequel, and, you know, things like that, you know, just the amount of time in between this and the original. Obviously, you know, it's been decades since the original, so it's cool that they finally came out with the sequel. So yeah, great movie. I mean, visually it looks cool. The performances in this movie, it's just great. The scenes with the actual jets flying, that stuff is just really cool to look at. I mean, obviously that's one of the deal breakers for this movie for me, you know. Now, if you didn't know, when I was younger, I actually wanted to be a pilot. I didn't necessarily want to be a part of the Air Force or anything, like, you know, a passenger plane, you know. That was my dream job as a kid before I wanted to make films, you know. When I discovered that was more my passion, you know. But yeah, great movie for sure. Again, great performances and things like that, so just an epic film, especially the finale of this movie, really great. So Top Gun Maverick, I mean, easily one of the best films of the year. I mean, would I say that it's as great as everyone's making it out to be? That's debatable, but either way, great movie. Easily my favorite of the year nowadays, so yeah. But, you know, there might be a time where The Batman reaches up to my favorite of the year again, but we'll see. But as of right now, I got to go with Top Gun Maverick. You know, again, either way you look at it, it's another film where it's easily within the top 3 no matter what. And I'm sure that this film would make a lot of people's top 3. So there you go. That is my list of the best movies of 2022. Let me know what you think. Do you agree with this list? Have you seen any of these movies? What movies would you say are some of the best of 2022? Feel free to let me know. So on that note, thanks for watching and have a good one.